As one of the most popular alcoholic beverages created from the distillation of grain-based products, whiskey managed to closely infuse itself into the culture of many nations around the world, especially in its homeland of Scotland. Today I will talk about how whiskey is made from barley, water, and yeast, and also how it is aged in oak casks. The primary ingredients of a good whiskey are barley, water, and yeast. The barley is a grain that provides sugar that will later be converted into an alcohol. Water is used in the mixing process, and as well imparts a certain flavor to the whiskey. Several distilleries believe that having their own personal water supply allows for a special taste in their brand of whiskey. The last ingredient, yeast, allows for the fermentation of grains into the alcohol. The first step in the manufacturing process is malting. The barley is spread across the floor and allowed to germinate. This should be done in a wet, dark environment that stimulates growing in the ground. This allows for the starches to change into the sugars, for the sugars to later be converted into alcohol. The next step is grinding. The dried germinated barley is sent through the grinder and crushed. This makes a coarse flour mixture called grist. The next step after grinding is brewing. The grist is mixed with water in 1 part grist to 4 parts water, and these parts are brewed together at 95 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. During this process, the starches are allowed to change into sugars, which will later be converted into alcohol. The sugar-water mixture is called wort. The wort is what's collected to make the whiskey. Next step is fermentation. The wort that's separated from the leftover brew is allowed to collect, and the yeast is then added to the wort. The yeast converts the starches and the sugars in the wort into alcohol. This is similar to making a bread, where the yeast attacks the starches to form sugars and carbon dioxide. This process usually takes about a day because of the biological breakdown of the sugars into the alcohol. After this, the fermented wort is collected and sent to a copper still. In the copper still, distillation occurs. The copper still is heated up and the alcohol vapor rises from the liquid. This vapor is collected and condensed into a liquid and sent to a second still. This still is similar to the first still and allows for the alcohol vapor, to be heated once again from the second still and condensed into a liquid. After the alcohol has been collected from the second still, water is added to achieve the desired proof. Proof is the measure of alcohol by volume. I have a figure here to show the process over again, so that way we can run back through it. So first, the grain is collected and stored in a bin. Here, malting occurs, and after that, it's sent back to the grinder. After that, it's sent back to the brewing area. It's brewed and then sent to the distillation facility. From here, it's collected and water is added after all the alcohol has been brewed out. From here, it's sent to the aging place. Now that I've covered how whiskey is made from its 3 base ingredients, barley, water, and yeast, I will now discuss how whiskey is aged. The alcohol-water mixture is put into oak casks. These casks are first burnt to allow a charred inside that imparts flavor into the whiskey. After this, the water-alcohol mixture is put into the cask and stored in a storage facility where the whiskey is allowed to age. During this period of time, the whiskey gains flavor from the burnt oak casks. During this time, the casks also expand and contract in the seasons, expanding in the hot summer and cooling in the cold and contracting in the cold winter. This also imparts a certain flavor from the natural air around the aging facility. I also have a figure that shows the aging facility. So here we can see the giant oak cask in which the whiskey is stored. and these are stored in a giant facility that allow for several of these barrels to be stuck together, so that way all the whiskey has roughly the same flavor. Okay. So today, I've discussed the process for distilling whiskey from barley, water, and yeast, and also how whiskey is aged. Next time you take a sip of your favorite whiskey, remember that you're tasting a brewing art form that dates back to 1494.